Our next story takes us to Kirkland via Seattle, via Phoenix, via Florida, via Houston, in a wide-ranging investigation that tonight has resulted in a guilty plea. The neo-Nazi organization Atomwaffen, formed right here in Washington State, was under investigation by the Fed's counterterrorism agency for over 2 years. And with that, I'm going to roll a clip and introduce you to the hate group, one of the groups that is considered one of the most dangerous hate groups in the United States of America, Atomwaffen. We've blurred some stuff out, just a little bit of a caveat. Some people may find some of the images disturbing and or offensive.
The only right they deserve is the right of lead. Hail Hitler.
A series of sinister online videos produced by the Atomwaffen division. The scenes include what the group calls hate camps, including firearms training. One recorded session occurred just outside the city of Concrete in Skagit County in an abandoned concrete plant called Devil's Tower. Why is Atomwaffen training and arming itself? Its members are followers of Adolf Hitler, but it is more telling that they also admire 1960s mass murderer Charles Manson. Manson's followers committed murders in hopes of sparking a race war between blacks and whites. Atomwaffen has that same battle cry. Race war now! Caleb Cole of Snohomish County is the leader of Atomwaffen's Washington cell, according to documents filed in King County Court.
So there's a little bit of background on Atomwaffen from 2019, Jennifer.
Yeah, that's alarming. A mix of Charles Manson and Hitler devotees.
Right here in Washington State. There's another report that was done by Nora O'Donnell that showed pictures of some of the people that we saw in those training videos and propaganda videos that they made in Poland at Auschwitz, holding up Nazi flags within the camp at Auschwitz, standing outside the main gate, giving thumbs up, and other locations they did. Those photos were confiscated by U.S. Customs when they arrived back in the United States.
I'm just going to say this again. We need to dismantle white supremacy. We need to do something about this demographic of young white men who feel so entitled that the way in which they express that, entitlement and disappointment is through hatred of people that do not look like them and, random acts of violence. I mean, this is just absolutely appalling. It is 2021. There is no place for this anymore, but the nation state is complicit in allowing for there to be space for this kind of activity.
Well, we know that one of their cohorts was essentially given a sentence of time served because the judge in that case felt essentially 21-year-old young man, whole life in front of him, grew up with a terrible childhood, and, well, he suffered enough.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm not making this up. So there are 4 of them arrested. We're going to get to that part of the story. One of them recently in federal court pleaded guilty, and in that case, the 21-year-old individual, the judge essentially sentenced them to time served and supervision, basically saying that they had an awful childhood, that I believe they identify LGBTQIA. I don't know how they identify, but they've had to hide that essentially they felt unaccepted by society. And so here came these neo-Nazis that embraced them, and he was like, cool. And it was just a silly mistake, and he has suffered enough.
That's such, again, back to systemic white supremacy, entitlement. White men feel entitled to particular things, and when they don't get it, this is how they respond.
Well, let's fast forward to February 26th, 2020.
Cameras are not allowed in federal court, and the only image we have of Cameron Brandon Shea is this courtroom sketch. It was around midnight Wednesday morning when Shea, on his way to work at the Kirkland Fred Meyer, was taken into custody by the FBI. Agents poring over his truck with search warrants looking for additional evidence in the case against him and 3 other defendants for distributing these. Threatening posters, many directed at journalists looking into the Atomwaffen group, which included our own Chris Ingalls, who received this letter in the mail at his home address. Members of the Anti-Defamation League also targeted, and the targets were both here and in Arizona and Florida. But at that first court appearance, one of our reporters did speak at length to a friend of Shea's who was with him as they both walked to work at the Fred Meyer that night, saying he likes animals, is a vegetarian, and she doesn't think he'd actually do anything bad. She says she's known him since they both went to Redmond High School and was unaware of anything tying him to a neo-Nazi group. And while he made racist and sexist comments, always thought he was joking.
You're not the same. I'm an American. You're a sick asshole.
He was just joking. Ha ha!
He likes-
Funny joke. I make funny joke.
He likes animals. He can't do anything bad now, right? Like, what in the actual, like, okay, I'm not going to swear tonight. I'm going to be on my best behavior. But it doesn't, like, tip you off at all that there's something awry or amiss with this person when they're consistently making racist and sexist jokes. And what does it say about you that you don't take them seriously and just cast them aside as jokes?
We shop at this Fred Meyer. And one of the things, Jennifer, I was wondering was, wait a minute, the FBI did an arrest in the parking lot at the Fred Meyer. My phone didn't blow up with David, you need to get down here with your camera. The FBI is in Kirkland. And on February 26th, I was flying back from Africa. So I wasn't here. And honestly, this whole arrest story and everything went pew for me. So I was very surprised when the news came out today that Cameron Shea pled guilty in federal court today. So the question now goes into what kind of sentence will they get? But let me give you a little bit of rundown on that, and then you can unpack it. Federal hate crime and conspiracy charges, U.S. District Court in the Western District of Washington. He pled guilty on both counts. He's the identified leader of the neo-Nazi group Atomwaffen, pleading guilty for threatening journalists and activists in multiple states, including, as you heard in that clip earlier, Chris Ingalls of King 5, who lives, I believe, in Edmonds. They specifically targeted Black and Jewish journalists. The case was investigated by the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force with assistance from National Security Division, Counterterrorism Section. Sentencing will be on June 28th. Faces up to 10 years on the hate crime charge, 5 years on the conspiracy charge for a potential maximum sentence of 15 years. No parole in the federal court system, so whatever they're sentenced will serve out almost all of that. But you know what's interesting me, Jennifer, is how quiet the political right is. You know, if this guy was, you know, had a you know, he has a beard, but you know, if he wore maybe like, you know, like a turban, and I know that turban is not Arab, but that's the ignorance that comes from that. Or if he expressed Muslim ideology, I think Tucker Carlson would be lighting this guy up tonight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And here, I think you're frozen or I'm frozen. So here's my concern about him. You know, yes, it's good that he's arrested. He's pled guilty. He's facing these charges. But does he become a living kind of like, I don't want to call him a martyr, but somebody that is still idealized for his vision, and, you know, people who are within these groups or who embrace Nazi ideology, does he become a symbol for them and kind of encourage them to continue moving forward? Because we've seen that there has been little done in this country to quash this movement. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's been coddled. So it's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to be a And when was the Holocaust, David? What? Not 6-7 decades ago? 6-7 decades ago was the Holocaust?
About
and we're
7.
still we're still having to deal with the repercussions of that. And fault of the United States, because if we look back to the Nuremberg trials, that was a show trial. Those people, most of them, the majority, didn't serve time. A lot of them were given high-ranking positions within the U.S. government because it was right at the beginning of the Cold War, and they wanted technology and scientists and people who could help them win that Cold War. So they basically let these people off, and they're continuing to let these people off today.
Well, at least we know from the pictures when they were there at Auschwitz on their tourism visit that at least they're not Holocaust deniers. We will continue to follow the story of the 4 co-conspirators with Cameron. One is fighting the charges, has pled not guilty, and is planning to go to trial. Everyone else has pled out and pled guilty in probably what are plea deals. One interesting thing we don't know in one little angle, I'll just plant this seed. For the one who essentially got the hall pass, something we don't know, are they working on a bigger case, and is that person turned state's evidence? Maybe that's something we'll find out in 6, 12, or 18 months. Local story, we'll continue to follow.